Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Cursed Crypt Keeper of the Ryde Church. Holly Arnold had always been drawn to places steeped in history. So, when she was offered the position of caretaker for the ancient crypt at Ryde Church on the Isle of Wight, she eagerly accepted. The crypt, rumoured to be haunted, had long intrigued her. Little did she know, her fascination would soon become a terrifying ordeal. The crypt beneath Ryde Church was a labyrinth of narrow passageways and dimly lit chambers. The walls, covered in centuries-old moss and inscriptions, whispered secrets of the past. Holly's job was to maintain the crypt, ensuring it remained accessible for historians and the occasional brave tourist. She spent her days sweeping the dust from the floors, polishing the worn stone, and keeping the crypt in order. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Holly descended into the crypt with her lantern. The air was cold and damp, carrying a faint, earthy smell. She moved methodically, her footsteps echoing softly against the stone. Suddenly, she felt a chill run down her spine, as if unseen eyes were watching her. She tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the eerie atmosphere. But as she continued her work, strange things began to happen. She heard whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves, and shadows danced just beyond the reach of her lantern's light. She found herself drawn to a particular section of the crypt she had always avoided, a series of sealed sarcophagi inscribed with ancient symbols. One night, driven by an inexplicable urge, Holly pried open one of the sarcophagi. Inside, she found a dusty, leather-bound book. The cover was adorned with an unsettling emblem, a skull encircled by serpents. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the book. The pages were filled with writings in a language she couldn't understand, accompanied by disturbing illustrations of demonic figures and dark rituals. As she leafed through the pages, a sense of dread washed over her. The final page contained a drawing of the crypt itself, with a hidden chamber marked behind one of the walls. Holly felt an irresistible compulsion to find this chamber. She searched the crypt, tapping on walls until she found a hollow-sounding section. With great effort, she dislodged the stones, revealing a narrow passage leading deeper into the earth. Lantern in hand, Holly squeezed through the opening and entered a hidden chamber. The air inside was heavy and oppressive. In the center of the room stood an ancient stone altar covered in dark stains. Surrounding the altar were 4 large, black candles, unlit but seemingly untouched by time. On the floor, an intricate pentagram was carved into the stone, its lines filled with a dark, dried substance. As Holly examined the chamber, she felt an overwhelming sense of malevolence. She realized this was no ordinary crypt, it was a place of dark rituals and ancient evil. She needed to leave to inform someone of her discovery. But as she turned to exit, the entrance sealed shut with a deafening boom. Panic set in as she frantically pushed against the unyielding stone. Suddenly, the candles burst into flame, casting an eerie glow around the chamber. The temperature plummeted, and Holly could see her breath forming in the air. The whispers she had heard earlier grew louder, more insistent. They formed words she could now understand: "Release us, free us." Holly's heart pounded as she turned to face the altar. The book she had found lay open on its surface, the pages turning of their own accord. They stopped on a page depicting a ritual to summon and bind an ancient evil. She realized the crypt was not just haunted, it was a prison for something far worse. Determined to prevent the release of whatever was trapped within, Holly began to chant the words written on the page, hoping to reinforce the bindings. The ground shook, and the whispers turned to screams. The shadows coalesced into a figure, tall and wreathed in darkness. It reached out towards her with clawed hands, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Holly continued to chant, her voice trembling but resolute. The figure shrieked in rage, but it began to fade, pulled back by the ancient magic. The candles flickered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness. The ground stopped shaking, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Exhausted and terrified, Holly collapsed to the floor. She awoke hours later to the sound of voices calling her name. The entrance had been unsealed, and a group of tense people, alerted by the strange noises and tremors, had come to investigate. They helped her out of the crypt, and she recounted her harrowing experience. The book and the chamber were sealed away once more, this time with stronger protections. Holly left her position as caretaker, unable to face the crypt again. The whispers and shadows of the Ryde church would remain a dark secret, but Holly had ensured that the ancient evil would not be unleashed upon the world. Yet, as she left the Isle of Wight, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her, a lingering presence that whispered to her in the dead of night, reminding her that the darkness within the crypt's walls was never truly vanquished. Holly moved to the mainland, hoping to leave the haunting memories of the Ryde church behind. She settled in a small village on the outskirts of Portsmouth, taking a job at a local library. The peaceful routine helped her regain a sense of normalcy, but the whispers that had haunted her nights never completely disappeared. They lingered at the edges of her consciousness, a constant reminder of the darkness she had confronted. One evening, while shelving books in the library's dimly lit basement, Holly noticed a familiar chill in the air. The whispering returned, louder and more insistent. She turned, expecting to see nothing but shadows, but instead, she found herself face to face with a figure from her nightmares. It was the same dark entity she had encountered in the crypt, now free from its ancient prison. Fear gripped her, but Holly refused to let it paralyze her. She had faced this evil once before and survived. Summoning her courage, she demanded, "What do you want from me?" The entity's eyes glowed with a cold fire as it spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of the earth. "You have merely postponed the inevitable. The seal has weakened, and my brethren stir. The ritual must be completed, and you will be the one to do it." Holly shook her head, backing away slowly. "I would help you. I won't release that evil upon the world." The figure advanced, its form shifting and twisting like smoke. "You have no choice. The bond we share is unbreakable. You will finish what you started." As the entity reached for her, Holly felt a surge of defiance. She grabbed a nearby book and swung it through the figure, but it passed through without resistance. The entity laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You cannot fight me with mere objects. Accept your fate." Holly Arnold. Desperation fueled her next move. Holly sprinted up the basement stairs, slamming the door behind her. She had to find help, someone who understood the dark forces at play. There was only one person she could think of, Father Matthias, the priest who had originally hired her at Ryde church. He had always seemed to know more about the crypt than he let on. Holly made the journey back to the Isle of Wight, feeling the entity's presence shadowing her every step. The once comforting sight of the church now filled her with dread. She found Father Matthias in the rectory, a look of grave concern on his face as he listened to her recount the events. "We must act quickly," he said, gathering ancient texts and ritual implements. "The binding spell must be reinforced, but it requires great power. You are connected to this evil now, Holly, and only you can strengthen the seal." Holly nodded, her resolve hardening. "Tell me what I need to do." Father Matthias led her back into the crypt, the oppressive atmosphere even more suffocating than before. They reached the hidden chamber, and Holly was struck by how much darker and more menacing it felt. The altar and candles awaited them, untouched but radiating a palpable malevolence. As Father Matthias began to chant, Holly followed his lead, repeating the incantations from the ancient book. The shadows writhed, and the air grew colder. The dark entity materialized once more, furious and desperate to break free. "You cannot bind me again," it roared, lunging towards Holly. She stood her ground, her voice unwavering as she chanted the final words of the spell. A blinding light erupted from the altar, and the entity screamed, its form dissolving into the air. The ground shook violently, and the walls of the chamber seemed to close in. Just as Holly feared they would be buried alive, the shaking ceased, and a profound silence enveloped the crypt. The candles flickered out, leaving them in complete darkness. Father Matthias lit a small lantern, his face etched with exhaustion but relief. "It is done," he said quietly. "The seal is stronger now, but it will always need guardians. The darkness will always seek a way out." Holly understood the weight of his words. She had become a part of this ancient battle, a guardian against the encroaching darkness. She returned to Portsmouth, carrying the knowledge and burden of her role. The whispers faded, replaced by a solemn silence, a reminder of the fragile peace she had helped secure. Years passed, and Holly continued her life, ever vigilant. The story of the cursed crypt keeper of Ryde Spire Church became a local legend, a tale of bravery and eternal vigilance. Holly knew that as long as there were those willing to stand against the darkness, the world would remain safe from the ancient evils that lurked in the shadows. And she would be ready should the whispers ever return. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.